failed. Please check log, blah, 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 encoders. Make sure they're all up to date. Okay, let me exit out of that. Okay, what do I need to restart then? Oh no, it says stop streaming. So I guess we're good. It's just not recording it to my computer, but it's going out to everywhere else. Okay, so we are good. Alright, so you were saying, cannabis event. I saw the picture of the jars.
Yeah, it's quite hard to get still. That's just one
actually,
of the products I've going. It's quite cool. You there?
Yeah, hold on a second.
Mm.
Alright, sorry, I forgot. Lately I've been hooking up the wire to my computer instead of doing it wireless because I have better connection that way. So should be better now as far as connection wise. So
Cool, man.
but yeah, well, I'm glad that went well. Have you seen the news lately? I guess everything's getting shot up, it seems like.
No, I was gonna check it out now. Like I pretty much avoided it, and then I had a quick look and saw, yeah, it's got crazy quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not to be expected, isn't it? I guess.
Well, and that's that's the thing. Like when I heard about the one shooting, the first thing that came to mind was I was like, didn't this happen around the 2016 election where we were talking and we were like, oh, I wonder, what the Democrats are gonna run on and this and that, and then next thing you know, there were all these shootings that sort of gave them something to talk about.
Yeah, I wrote an email to my mum on Friday going, "Don't go to London." Brexit's in the same stages with Brexit. Like, yeah, don't go to London. So ISIS will just hype up for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And it's just saying in America, it's things hype up with the party.
Yeah, and especially like, it really shows you how much like violence is the news media's agenda when you have Tulsi Gabbard who is having, she's like, and people rip me in the comments when I say that she's like the Democrat candidate I like because, she has semi-social justice positions like trans bathrooms, whatever, and it's like, but the thing about her is I feel like she actually has reasons. Like the policy she puts forth today isn't going to change 4 years down the line. Like she's not like these con artist people where it's like, they're all on stage bashing everything Obama did that they were all in lockstep supporting 4 years ago. She's actually like, this is my position, here's why, blah, blah, blah. Like, not even that I have to agree with the position, but I respect that she has her own reasons for it. Well, Google was, not allowing her to advertise during a time period where she's the most searched candidate. Then you have now the news smears that she's a Russian puppet. And it's like, this is the weirdest thing now. If you're anti-war, you're smeared as working for Russia. And it's like, how is Russia this big, villainous, country with these demagogues and whatever, if you're claiming their whole agenda is peace? Like, it makes no sense. But I guess it's not supposed to. That's the real, like, mind fuck of it all.
Yes. So did you look at the shootings? You had a look, or?
I looked a little into the one, and it's weird because again, I'm already just on surface level picking up things that just sort of leave me with more questions than answers. Like the one in Texas, they're saying that 20 minutes beforehand, what appears to be a manifesto was posted on 8chan. Now, I'm pretty sure if 8chan is like the edgier version of 4chan, I'm pretty sure the website's anonymous though. So how have they found out this quickly through this anonymized website that this manifesto came from that person? I mean, unless if they already have warrants and grabbed up his computer and
someone would have posted it.
Yeah, so there's that. Well, this manifesto claims to be raging against, immigrants and everything like that, and espousing white nationalist talking points. And all I can think, like, is if you were really raging out against Hispanics and immigrants, why did you shoot up a Walmart and not, like, a taco shop? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there are areas of my city where it's like blocks of just little Mexican shops and bodegas and things like that. Why wouldn't you unleash hell on those areas rather than a Walmart where you sort of have to be indiscriminate because everyone just shops at Walmart, I'm sure. Like, like things about it just don't add up. There's a lot of inconsistencies with the narrative, but that's probably because it's the news media.
We want them to spread out their targets more.
Maybe, but I mean, again, if you're like, oh, white people are having their jobs taken away from them, okay, so you're gonna kill like poor white Walmart shoppers? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
No, I haven't even had a chance to look at any of the shootings yet. I just saw it going crazy on Drudge, and then Drudge is just crazy altogether today. Like every headline is classic.
When I saw even one, like, oh man, I forget what it was. I was watching a video a few days ago, and there's one talking about the shooter who was out in California at that garlic festival thing, and it said, like, the thing they said was they were like, his Facebook once posted a link where with an article that referenced Nazism or something, and like, I'm watching it with someone and they're just like, oh my god, if that is how loosely they can, like, fast and loose play this game, they're like, if you ever wrote a paper in school about World War II, you'd be called a Nazi if you ever did anything wrong. Like, they're not even saying they had a position, they're just saying they once referenced the Third Reich. And it's like, no context needed whatsoever. And it's the same thing. We saw this in New Zealand where the guy posts that thing and he basically says, you know, oh, Donald Trump, he's a pussy. He won't do what needs to be done, whatever, whatever. And they're like, the shooter referenced Donald Trump in his manifesto. And it's like, okay, yeah, but he called him a douchebag, and that's not the implications you're giving. So, I don't know. You know, I really feel like since Las Vegas, whenever these things happen, I just have an aversion to them. Like, I just almost don't even want to hear about it. You still there?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
well, I guess that's the whole point. Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess that's the whole point. I thought you would have had a look into it to see what it looked like. What sort of attack it
Well, like I said, the Walmart one I knew about, the California one I vaguely know about. There's what's the other one? Daytona Beach or something like that. There was one in Ohio, maybe. I don't know. There were two that just happened back to back.
Yeah.
But I don't know the details besides the one article I read this morning. And even at that, you know, I did though yesterday see Millie Weaver do a video where she mentioned that the Walmart one, I think they were saying 18 people injured, but only one person had died. And it again shows how the media will manipulate the narrative in calling this a mass shooting. And I guess again, it's all in the vague terminology where if they're like, you know, 4 victims, and it's like, okay, yeah, I guess it's more than 4 victims, but what's the body count? Oh, well, just one person died? Well, that doesn't seem as crazy as what actually happened, but, you know, it still is an awful... I don't mean to downplay it in any way, you know, by what I'm saying here. My criticism is of the media. You know, I feel like in these situations, like, the media's approach should be, thank God, out of the 18 people injured, only one has passed.
Be interested to check that, because for sure, the obvious narrative would be, oh, thank God.
Yeah. Because, I mean, for real, out of 18 people injured in a shooting, if only one of them dies, that's amazing. And that's really good. And, you know, but the media, you know, they're just going to drum up the fear drum so that by the time the next Democratic debate comes around, all, you know, instead of talking about all their losing positions, like free healthcare for illegal immigrants, they're going to be like, gun violence and, the recent blah, blah, blah that happened. I mean, and here's the other thing that I would bet on, because I've heard that there's a while now between these last debates they had this week and the next one around. I bet you they will start having CNN sponsored town halls with the victims of, this shooting and that shooting and the next one, and give all of these candidates a platform in which to be like, well, we're going to come down on this and we're going to clamp down on that. I mean, I don't know what sort of guns were used, but I was even talking to my boss about this yesterday, because here's the thing. The shooting at the Garlic Fest, she knows people that were there because her cousin's restaurant gets a contract to run his restaurant at our local fair, at the Dutchess County Fair. So the people from the Garlic Fest, some of the vendors, they also work the fair over here. That's what they do. They go from different festivals and fairs and all of that. So
Yeah.
they were, Michelle, my boss Michelle was like, yeah, I'm reading their Facebook posts and they're talking about how they're hiding under their booth, hearing these loud booms go off and everything. And I was talking to her about it. And I said, yeah, the problem is I said, the media, they only want to talk about these things when it gives them a reason to. I said, here's my concerns with these issues in totality. I said I completely understand the argument of censorship will lead to violence. When you are having people who are every other day having their accounts taken down, demonetized, and everything else, and these people have no other means in which to publicly air their grievances, right or wrong, whatever, they're going to lash out. I said, and you're seeing this. And my boss asked, she said, well, what about free speech? I said, well, they're private companies. I said, and the other problem is, and thank God that she is someone who knows the dark underbelly of like Monsanto and the CDC and the FDA, and she knows that government is corrupt and will propagate cancer but never give you a cure and things like that. So when I'm telling her like, well, CIA through In-Q-Tel funded Facebook, so the government has a hard time reining in Facebook because they don't want to expose that they're really two sides of the same coin. Like, there's so much data flow between the two that they find it hard to rein in Facebook without exposing themselves in the process. That's one of these issues where these conservatives all the time are like, well, why isn't Trump a social media censoring? Why isn't he? And it's like, they aren't, because they're one and the same. Facebook is the government. So you're asking, why isn't the government cracking down on the government? That should be obviously why it isn't happening. But so I'm saying, people are having their accounts taken down, and I brought up the YouTube shooter. I said, there's a shooting at YouTube headquarters after this woman who was like some weirdo vegan yoga instructor, Middle Eastern chick. I said, she went up to YouTube and was shooting up the place. They talked about it for a day, and then it was end of story, because they don't want the story to be, this girl spent years creating her livelihood on this platform, and now they've introduced new rules that has completely pulled the rug out from under her. I said, and this is now happening to people regularly, daily, and people are going to go crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's too early to draw that conclusion, because there is obviously a huge difference between some crazy chick going to YouTube and not really causing any carnage, and then
Yeah.
just someone walking into Walmart with an AK-47.
Well, yes and no. I mean, again, if it's this whole white, whatever nationalism nonsense. I mean, because the context in which I generally hear the censorship leads to violence things is with criticism of Jews and stuff, where whenever there is a shooting on a synagogue, they're like, clamp down on the anti-Semitism, delete all the anti-Semites accounts and this and that, and then it leads to that. So I mean, that's how I sort of loosely tie the two together, because it's like, I sort of feel like if you're operating on 8chan in the first place, you've probably already had your Facebook account terminated already. Like, it's some of these websites are like the last resorts for fringe ideas and everything like that. I'm sure there's plenty of people on 8chan for shits and giggles, but I'm sure there's other people that go there because it's the only place they can say the things they want to say without having their account terminated. But it is. I think it's, like you said, it's too early to try to directly correlate the two. I'm just sort of talking about the environment in general, where it's like, I'm not surprised when these sort of things are happening left and right, because the environment is a breeding ground for it.
Yeah, well, I'd be more looking at the timing of the attack and how quickly they released the identity, how quickly the manifesto was released. Actually, I haven't looked
Yeah.
into the background, so it actually happened to people.
Well, yeah, that's the
See
other
what
thing.
the obvious stuff like
How
girls
quickly they
and
have the narrative together with a nice little bow on it.
it'd be interesting to see what kind of cell phone footage is captured, if any, or CCTV or
Well, yeah, you'd imagine Walmart would definitely
yeah,
have security footage of it. They should.
see what witnesses are saying. Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, I haven't really been. I've been busy with the club. 'Cause that's pretty good on the beach. Pretty
Yeah.
surprising. We have
I,
like 20 stores just openly selling. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I thought that article you sent me from the Daily Mail about the whole thing was really interesting. Yeah, you already have it. Here are some of the headlines. Democrat Rep Tim Ryan, El Paso manifesto sounded like a Trump rally. Maxine Waters blames Trump for escalating killings after shootings. Shot his own sister. Is this the same?
Just doesn't. I mean, I haven't looked. It just doesn't. Reason I'm just not into it. Just
Shooter
my
name.
gut's just telling me none of it.
Daytona, Ohio shooter Connor Betts, 24, shot dead 9, including his own sister, and injured 27 with high-powered rifle. Yeah, this is all going to be a big gun control push. 24-year-old
If you go on Drudge, like Epstein's been getting more and more crazy.
Yeah, did you see he was almost suicided or
Shift
something?
that story quick. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that too much. It's not going to make it to trial. I think that's pretty evident. But he was trying to. If you've seen, they're talking about they want to shut down conspiracy web pages. But if you type in Epstein trying to start off his own human race by implanting his own DNA, that's like mainstream media reporting that. And you had that lab they found in America where they were sewing heads onto different people, had buckets full of heads, bucket full of buckets.
I didn't hear about
It's
that.
getting insane.
I did see a
There's like
mainstream.
Disney boats dropping off kids.
I did see a mainstream news thing though.
Epstein, you got Epstein fine 8-year-olds. Fucking.
I didn't watch the clip yet, but I did see there was some mainstream thing about like human animal hybrids in the mainstream news this morning. But you know, that's old news to us. Sometimes the things in these news articles. Listen to this: 6 of the 9 victims were African American, and police have said they don't think it was targeted discrimination because of the short timeline of the massacre, but added they aren't ruling it out. He shot his own sister, for Christ's sake. Like, some of the shit is so obnoxious. Like, I saw a picture of I saw a video last night of Don Lemon interviewing this pastor, and I mean, the news media is like venomous at this point, where they are just like, you could have some guy on there who's talking about a church outreach group helping young African Americans, and they're like, but what about Trump's racism? And he's just like, he attacks everyone. You know that. Like, he's not a racist. And they're like, well, don't you feel like he's just using you as a prop to insulate himself from the criticisms? He's like, I've been to the White House 4 times in the past 5 months. No. like, and just shutting it down. And then Don Lemon, because, you know, he's engaged to a dude, is like, you know, you once said Barack Obama and same-sex marriage and blah blah blah. And like, as soon as the guy's like, well, you know, Trump attacks everyone indiscriminately. I think same-sex marriage is ungodly. Those are just my positions. And then Don Lemon's like, well, so is it very Christian-like of you for you to be condoning attacks? And the guy's just like, I'm not condoning anything. I'm stating a matter of fact. And, like, the news media is, like, viciously partisan. Like, this is, like, you know, on the one hand, I feel like leading up to the next elections, it's going to be a walk in the park for Trump. That's how I feel like on the one hand. And then on the other hand, I feel like they are going to be so over the top. Like, I think this is one of the things we're going to have to look out for is you're going to have false flags. They're going to realize rhetoric alone isn't going to win them this. As much as people are sitting around saying, oh, the Democrats haven't learned, they haven't learned, I don't know. I think we're gonna see some tricks that people aren't gonna think are part of campaigns or elections that are going to feed into the campaigns and the elections.
I don't think they need any tricks anymore because, like you said yourself, it's like it's got to a stage where so many of them, such a frequent thing now, the timing of it, that people don't even bother looking. So they wouldn't even why even bother even like hiding your traces or even making it even remotely believable? Because people aren't even going to look. They're so used to the headlines. They're so used to it.
Yeah.
Like I said, as long as it's on the headlines. I don't know. It shouldn't turn that until I look into it. It just doesn't really sound that like believable based on what I've heard. That's all I've heard so far.
What is this? I mean, and even like you were saying, how the timing is. If this article is what I think it is, when did this come out? June 26th. Oh, so that was a little while ago. Madonna put out a video called God Control, and it's about, you know,
Yeah.
this is your wake-up call. Gun violence disappropriately affects children, teenagers, and marginalized. I'm so sick of this, like, climate change disproportionately affects blah 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 blah. Like, you know what the obnoxious thing is, and it's the same thing with the Don Lemon thing, like the undercurrent of white supremacy and everything, where it's like the climate's changing and, you know, black people can't handle it but white people can. Gun control happens and black people can't handle it but white people can. Like, you know what I mean? How there's that sort of underlying narrative whenever they're like, and it disproportionately affects the marginalized. It's like basically saying white people can handle it but black people can't.
Yeah, your Russian Olympics is still in the news.
Yeah.
I'm not, it's all surprised by
You know what
any of
I
it.
you know
Anyone tried to report yet? Thing.
well, I'm looking on my one app which aggregates from Drudge, Breitbart, and a handful of others. I'm not going to bring it. My computer, the internet's going in and out, so I'm not going to open it up on my computer because then the whole stream's going to go to shit.
Yeah, I would have thought Epstein would be like the news story of the last since the shooting of Kennedy. So I guess not such a biggie because that is getting completely insane.
Yeah.
From Disney boats being dropped off, from an 8-year-old being brought from Lithuania. Looks like Epstein was fucking another 8-year-old. And Disney boats being dropped off there is pretty huge. You got Ray Kurzweil connected. You've got headlines talking about how he was going to produce his superhuman race, with all of his links to Harvard and all those AI hive mind think tanks he was up to. And even when you look at the hive mind companies, they talk about how hard it is to find like volunteers and stuff like that.
I'm going to read you a headline, which, because of the science, you know, you might just get a little laugh out of this. And this is completely off topic, but Tony Dungy says low football IQ among owners leads to lack of minority coaches. Isn't that kind of funny?
Oh yeah.
Speaking of people who talk about IQ and all that stuff a lot,
Mm.
Stefan Molyneux's doing an interesting series on Skid Row and stuff. Have you caught any of that?
Yeah. No, I haven't actually watched him for like a couple of maybe a couple of months now. No, I did see this Good Row, yeah.
Yeah.
What's he
I
up to
same with
with
me. I,
that?
I I haven't watched any of his stuff really recently either. But when I saw that, I wanted to check it out. And I mean, I thought it was real interesting some of the things he was talking about with California, where he's like, this wealth inequality thing. It's worse in the places that are the ones that are always talking about it, and they don't realize that it's the policies they put in place that create it.
So what's he doing there? Is he visited there? Is he like what's he up to?
Yeah, he was there and he was interviewing this guy who sort of is like, I think he's like the unofficial mayor of Skid Row, but he sort of organizes all these events. And some of the things he even talked about, like one thing that I thought was really interesting is because Stefan was like, we're hearing about TB and we're hearing about this and that and all these illnesses. And the one guy was like, listen, last year there were 3 cases. Then there was, this amount. Then there was that. He said the CDC only has 3 levels: outbreak, epidemic, and pandemic. He said we only had 3
No.
cases, and they're talking about it being an outbreak. And he said, and it's not. He said Skid Row, there was like 1 case. He said now a few blocks over, there were several. But it wasn't happening here. But that's not what they were making it sound like. So I mean, it was nice having someone who's in the middle of it, kind of straightening out some of the narratives. But it's also funny where you have Molyneux, who's straight up anarcho-capitalist, questioning this guy who's like, oh, well, we need help from the government, help with this, help with that, help with that. And Stefan is sort of pushing back on him a bit, being like, but don't you think the government are the ones that have sort of led to this happening? Like, maybe you should stop looking to them for help and all of that. The other thing I've been paying close attention to is the stuff about Baltimore, because Tucker did a really good interview with a guy who's like a city councilman there. And, you had the whole controversy about Trump tweeting at Elijah Cummings, Baltimore's rodent infested. Well, the media runs off with their race narrative. There is an actual story there where they've had the past 2 mayors resign. They have councilmen resigning. Everyone's like, the whole government is corrupt. And over the past 10 years, $2.3 billion have been sent to that city, and it looks like it's the third world. $2.3 billion to a city that looks like Iraq. Like, it is insane. And the fact that no one wants to talk about that is like, I mean, I don't know how these politicians aren't arrested. That's one of the biggest things that really bothers me, is that these politicians get away with everything. Not anything, because they're doing everything, and they're getting away with everything. Whether it's Hillary Clinton or these low-level mayors in Baltimore, like, there's no one arresting any of these people. And they should all be behind bars with Epstein.
Yeah, it just sounds like the planet is scripted because now you've got the Democrats having to sell the idea of rat-infested towns. So I don't know how you could play it better for Trump, really, because that's what they're doing. They're just selling rats now.
Yeah, well, and
Like,
here's one of the
yeah,
other
playing
crazy
with that
stories
shit.
I heard. In Queens, you had a child care center that was so run down and dilapidated that a rat fell through the ceiling because the ceiling was falling apart. A dead rat fell through the ceiling and exploded into maggots that it was so dead and decomposed at that point. And the staff at this childcare center ended up throwing up on the spot. I mean, it sounds like something from like an over-the-top comedy movie. So, childcare center, dead rat falls through the ceiling, explodes, maggots everywhere, the staff are throwing up. This is in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's district. And this is one of the problems that Democrats are now being faced with, is people are looking at the places they're overseeing, and they're seeing conditions that are ungodly and horrible, and they're like, why are you concerned with the border and you're not concerned about the people who put you in power? Like, and this isn't a new thing. This is not new by far. This is part of the problem with the swamp and all that stuff, but it's like, at least it's coming to light now that these local areas are having such horrible problems, and the people getting elected to oversee them, they're concerned with the border and Trump and national stuff, and it's like as soon as they get into a position to do something, their eyes are just on the next position. Like, they're not even concerned with doing the job for the position they're at. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, imagine you're promoted to, like, assistant manager somewhere, and the only thing you're doing is criticizing the manager's job rather than doing your assistant manager work. And again, they're doing it all without consequence.
Yeah. Well, I can't see them putting up someone against Trump. Like I say, I think what they're going to do is just have a democratic collective. Have them all agree on the same agenda. Because the agenda's so great, why would you like disagree on it? And just have them all split up into their own nonsense. So Bernie does all the government welfare programs. That stupid bartender, she can do like the environment crap. You got plenty of women, girl power in there. Almost be like Spice Girls party, girl power party.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, you have to have whatever that bitch face is from Joe Rogan. She can be like, doing foreign policy.
Well,
yeah, just be a fucking.
I kind of thought from watching the one debate that it's looking like
we'll have Twitter again.
It's looking like I think the Democrats are going to put up Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. I think they're going to be the ticket, but I don't think it's going to go very far.
Roll all the issues into one. The patriarchy, the white guilt, just everything. Roll it all in.
Well, that's sort of what the Green New Deal was. The Green New Deal, if you read it, that's what it was. It was everything rolled into one.
It's never going to be a better time to play it. So let's just do it now.
Well, and you know,
it's all unraveling now.
Yeah, it is. And the reason why they have to roll it all into one, though, is it doesn't make sense on its own.
The point where it's like, yeah.
I mean, they do that as it is now, where it's like, again, in listening to people talk about the Baltimore thing, Tucker Carlson's talking to this councilman being like, you've had 2 mayors resign, the whole city has been black run for 20 years or whatever, black mayors, this and that, $2.3 billion, what's the deal, what's going on, why is the crimes, higher than every other, like, your crime rate in your city is higher than all other countries, and everything. And the guy's just like, 400 years of slavery. And Tucker's like, okay, yeah, I get it. Slavery happened, but blacks have been running the city, 2.3 billion, 400 years of slavery. And then Tucker's like, okay, but, these shootings. And then the thing the guy spouts off is he said, well, poverty and will lead to violence and this and that. And like, again, when they say these things and people don't think about it critically, like the question you ask, this black guy shoots another black guy, whose bank account goes up? No one. Killing each other doesn't affect anyone's poverty. Like, it does, like, there's no economic come up from killing someone else. Like, so when they put forth these ideas, well, the murders are because of poverty. No. You could tell me that people are getting, like, their cars broken into because of poverty and I might buy it. You could tell me that houses are getting robbed because of poverty and I might buy it. But telling me people are raping and killing each other and that's from poverty, you're not going to sell me that one.
Don't know, it might make their mortgage cheaper.
Maybe.
Get a cheaper house.
More than 20%, this is the only thing not shooting related in the headlines. More than 20% of millennials claim to have no friends, poll finds.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice that when I was at work. Like when I asked people what they do,
And,
everything. That's why I never fit in because even though I didn't have any mates, all of it's just Xbox, Netflix, cartoons, Superman, Batman.
and it says more
I
than.
probably don't really give a shit what the chicks do. That probably sounds bad, but I don't really ask them because you can't ask them what they're doing, can you? So that'd be like really creepy. In the office, go, oh, hey chick, what are you doing? Like you can ask that, but you can ask guys what they're doing. And it's pretty rare they're ever doing anything. You get like the odd dad.
When it says in
That's
less
rare.
than a third of millennials say they have double-digit friends, according to the data. Even if younger Americans are overstating their isolation, the jarring numbers reflect long-term rising trends in loneliness. Studies have indicated that loneliness has myriad negative mental and physical health effects. You know, it's see, I go back and forth on some of the social things because it's like I try to think about a time when, people weren't living in cities and it wasn't so rural and like your community and your connections were like the people you went to church with on Sunday or, you went into town and you may know person like the thing is I feel like there was a point in time where your commerce was more personal than it is now, and it's like things will balance each other out. So it's like whereas you used to know on a first name basis like your mailman, your dairy farmer, your butcher, and your baker. Well, now your baker is Walmart, and your butcher is Tyson Meats, and all of this stuff. So then you have friends from elsewhere and everything like that. One of the other interesting studies I saw recently was they did a study of how relationships are beginning, and the majority of them now are happening online. Where it used to be, you were introduced through friends or coworkers or things like that. And it's like, I know plenty of people in my generation that are apprehensive over the whole online dating thing because they think it'd be better to have like personal interaction. Like, you can learn so much more about someone in a 10-minute personal interaction than you can of like months of just talking online.
No, I think that was the whole point of it. Like how would you be able to compete? It's social media. How could you compete with YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, where you can create your own echo chambers and be in those little groups? It's going to be hard to break somebody out of that and
Yeah.
compete with it. Because when you used to go meet with your friends, you didn't mind chatting around for hours and hours and hours, because you didn't have the competition of computer games, virtual reality, and that's basically everyone is in this cocoon society now.
Yeah.
Anyway, talking of cocoon society, it's gonna have to run out within about 5 minutes or so.
It's all right.
Yeah, I don't know how you're gonna like I say it's gonna be difficult to compete with that, especially if that's all you've been introduced to since you've been on this planet and you didn't have the time before the internet.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know how some.
I don't know. See, I think there are people that know about it otherwise, but sometimes I think it's like it's just more comfortable and easy for people to. It's like I almost feel like I know a handful of people that are in like these catch-22 situations where it's like they'll want the personal interactions and want to be out and about and doing things, but then whenever you're like, okay, so what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? They're like, no, no,
Hmm.
no, no. And it's like, okay, well, you can't have it both ways. You can't say you want to sit in your room all day and do your own thing and, be by yourself and everything like that, and then expect to have a large social circle and, be out and about doing things while not being out and about at the same time. Like, there's like a trade off. Like, I realize that. Like, I try to tell people all the time if they're like, oh, I want to go get a girlfriend. It's like, you got to go to bars. You got to be out where girls are. And they're like, I don't like being there. And it's like, okay, that's whatever. You gotta suck it up and deal with it if you want the thing that comes out of that. Like, it's like, I mean, it's basically like the idea of like, you know, I want a degree in engineering, but, you know, school isn't really for me, so I'm not going to go to school, but I want the degree, and I should get the degree. And it's like, okay, but you have to go through the process. Like, it's like this whole cart before the carriage mentality. That's one of the other things that I've really become keen to, is this, you know, the whole me, now thing. And it's like, I see it a lot with my job, and it's like, it stems from like the boomer generation. It definitely feeds into mental health and everything. And it's weird for me. I feel like someone who is working in a mental health field, although I'm trying to get out of it, but like, I tell people all the time at work, your feelings are irrational. Like, you need to ask yourself, should I be feeling this way? Stop feeling something and thinking you're justified in feeling that way. Ask yourself, am I right to be feeling this way? And when I present that to people, especially people that are up to their necks in like psychiatrist therapy, group sessions, coping skills, and whatever, they're like, what? My feelings aren't everything? My feelings shouldn't dictate everything? And I'm like, no. Why would you think that? Why would you ever? And it's like again, the whole thing of, are you in control of your emotions, or are your emotions in control of you? And sadly, more often than not, people are more comfortable having their emotions control them. No matter how irrational it makes them seem, no matter how unhappy it makes them seem. Like, I have a new coworker who's a military vet, real cool guy. I get along so good with veterans that at this rate, I really want to find local, like, volunteer work I can do with them. But I mean, this guy, after 2 weeks of working there, he said, you know what I've realized? A lot of these people are happy being in it. They don't want to make it through. They don't want to end up on the other side of it. They are happy in their problems. Like, they are basking in it. Like, women who will call you up and say, oh, the love of my life left me, and he's a dirtbag because of this, and he sucks because of that, and he cheated on me, and he lied, and he cheated, and he's two-faced, and he's a bum, and this, and any normal person hears this, and they're like, wow, you should be happy. You dodged a bullet. You got a scumbag out of your life. And they're just like, but what am I going to do? I miss him. And it's like, it's been 6 months and you've been carrying on about how much you miss a guy who is nothing but a problem to you. You love problems. That's what it is. You don't want a solution. You love problems. And then you love the sympathy and attention that it can get you to whine and cry. I mean, it's like Oppression Olympics on a personal level. Instead of, you know, bitching and moaning about their race or their gender, they're bitching and moaning about their personal love life or whatever else. And it's ridiculous. The other problem I hate, I think I might have talked about this in my solo podcast last week, and this is why I'm really hating this job right now, is they have it where, because we're like, I don't even know. They won't even call us part-time employees because we're technically hired through a temp agency. And I mean, they have it so it's like we're barely their employees, but yet they want us going to trainings and getting certifications and, you know, doing X, Y, and Z all for this job. And then they don't want us working over 35 hours a week, because if you work over 35 hours...
0-hour contract.
Well, if you work over 35 hours a week, though, well, then you're entitled to benefits. So, you know, and this is the thing I hated about Obamacare, is the economy is basically being oppressed because of benefits. So all these employers are like, you can't work too much or you could get benefits. And that's why people have 2 or 3 jobs in order to support themselves. Well, in this job, one of the things I have to do is help people, like homeless people, mentally ill people, whatever, drug addicts, help them get benefits. So I'm looking at this saying, wait, I can't have just one job where I could say get housing for myself, be able to afford a place to live. I can't have one job that affords me that because, God forbid, I end up entitled to benefits. But for my job, I'm supposed to be helping the downtrodden and hopeless all get their benefits. This asshole who doesn't want to work or doesn't want to do anything, I'm supposed to help him secure free housing, and meanwhile you're telling me I can't even work a full schedule that where I could afford housing because then I might be entitled to a benefit. Something is wrong with that. Something is deeply, deeply wrong when we have a system that is oppressing the working class for the sake of upholding the underclass. And I mean, I guess they say that's always the problem with these socialist systems. Because it really, like...
Well, I think a lot...
I was just going to say, it really just starts to seem like you're better on the other end of things, doing nothing, and just trying to get whatever you can from the government or the system.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to run, man. But yeah.
Alright. Well, we can try to... Hopefully, my schedule is supposed to change.
I'll try and catch online.
Yeah, my schedule is supposed to change, so I should be free more during weekday nights. So maybe Wednesday night we'll catch up, and hopefully we'll know more about the shootings then.
Yeah, man.
Alright. Well, I'll catch you later,
cool,
man.
Alright.
Alright, take care.